Hello, I'm ToyCat, and welcome back to the second channel Geography News video. There is a big conflict going on in the former USSR, and although you might be thinking of Russia and Ukraine, that is still going on, but it's actually kind of the smokescreen and the cover for what's going on in Azerbaijan and Armenia. They are both relying on Russia maybe being a bit too busy, and instead that means that they can have their disagreement that involves guns, by the way, and bombs, but their disagreement is going on, and on a humanitarian level, it has to be worth mentioning, there is claims of ethnic cleansing. There are refugees being made every hour. There is a big movement of people going on and a big change in the stats of territory. However, if there is a big change in the stats of territory, it means that there is going to be a new set of borders being made in the world. There is a basically country that is going to stop existing. And so what will the world map look like? Let's dive into that a little bit today. And obviously, it's worth mentioning, this is between Azerbaijan and Armenia, two former USSR republics. So they've only been independent for the last 30 or so years, and also interestingly, you can tell this is going to be a spicy part of the world because when you click on most countries, for example Austria, there is no disputed borders of Austria. You can see exactly where it is on the world map. Google Maps is happy to red outline the borders, but if we try to click on Azerbaijan, Google Maps is like, no, we're not getting involved in that emotional mess, and so let's dive into exactly why that is. So for a very brief update on the two countries, basically they have existed only, even before joining the USSR, they were always a kind of permanent piece of back and forth between Turkey, the Ottomans, and Russia, and the most recent time is when they joined Russia in 1920, and they were merged together as one mega country, and as one of the ways to keep them as one country, they deliberately moved some people and some territory between each of the places. Azerbaijan and Armenia, therefore, despite not being hugely linked in terms of people, have always had this giant link between them, because if you want, this village right here was administered by Azerbaijan despite being surrounded by Armenia. And the same is true on the other side. This was entirely, administered by Armenia despite being surrounded by Azerbaijan. That makes things messy enough before you consider that a whole full-scale part of Azerbaijan is found right over here to the southwest of Armenia, and also there's a big group of ethnic Armenians found right in the middle of Azerbaijan. Best pointed out by this map right here. This is Nagorno-Karabakh, and Nagorno just means mountain as best we can tell, but basically it is just, a group of Armenians living inside of Azerbaijan. And while it was part of the USSR, they were allowed full self-governance. However, they figured that once these two countries became independent, they would rather be on this side of the border rather than this side. And from Armenia's perspective, who said, yeah, actually, this makes a lot of sense. If you think about it, Azerbaijan gets to have a full exclave inside of Armenia. Why shouldn't Armenia have one inside of Azerbaijan? Whereas Azerbaijan says, what the heck are you talking about? You can't have a piece of territory that looks like this. Our country you can't just take a giant chunk out of the middle of our country. No, we're not going to allow that. And so what happens? Well, the simple answer is you get a conflict, and then you get another conflict, and then now we're in the third conflict where there is Azerbaijan and there are Armenians kind of at each other's throat because the guys in the area are saying, bare minimum, we get to control ourselves, but realistically, we'd like to be part of Armenia. All of their close connections are with Armenia, with a big road between them, and they get their supplies from Armenia on a preference basis. Indeed, anything that tries to happen, they want to build those closer ties with Yerevan and Armenia rather than with Azerbaijan, whereas Azerbaijan says, no, you get to make your own laws in some ways right now as solely as a, nice thing because we've been going through wars. You do not get to say you be closer to Armenia than us because you are a part of our country, damn it. And so that simple back and forth is what leads to a conflict that develops every now and then when maybe, so the current one, and also just I feel like Azerbaijan comes across kind of reasonable when they say, yeah, we would just like to continue controlling our territory. However, they were the people who instigated this current conflict. Basically, this is it right here, a lovely little map. And what happened is, after the last major escalation in 2020, a fair few thousands of people were reported killed in 6 weeks of fierce fighting, but then Russian peacekeepers at least stopped it and they tried to negotiate. But then after years and after Russia is a little bit busy, Azerbaijan decided to mount a blockade of the vital route into the enclave in December 2022, saying, no, you stop sending your stuff in from Armenia. And so by blockading the place, basic, supplies, food items, medication start to go really, really scarce. They are effectively treating it like a medieval siege, saying, yes, we will make sure that you start to agree with us because you're not getting your your food and your medicine until you do, which is a little bit rough and, in international law could be considered a war crime. But if you consider this as a part of Azerbaijan, you're allowed to starve your own population if you really want to, and so that is what they chose to do. Armenia is not a, is not a very big fan of that. They just say that they're trying to send in some, some vital supplies, but Azerbaijan says that they want to bring in military supplies, and, Azerbaijan says no, but they'd say no even if they were doing it, right? And so, basically, it all goes back to really, really messy previous conflicts. What is the solution for a big group of people who live inside of another country when when their people are found just a little bit to the west? In the modern world, in the Western world, we are moving away from nationalities meaning a country. To be in Ireland does not mean to be Irish. To be in, Germany does not mean you have to be ethnically German. However, in many parts of the world, this is still the way they define their countries, and so to be in Armenia should mean to be an Armenian. To be in Azerbaijan should mean to be an Azeri, right? It makes sense that you would be the ethnic part of the country that you're closest to, and so what happens with a group of people who find themselves in a country that they do not want to be because they do not ethnically match? The easy solution would be if everyone adopts the same approach we have of it's your citizenship as Azeri while your nationality could be found this way. I think it's kind of comparable to Northern Ireland is how you could go with this, or just like how Northern Ireland went for a fair part of its history, you could instead have just a little bit of ethnic cleansing instead. And so the simple solution here is they have decided that they will say, yep, here's the deal. You're going to be part of Azerbaijan. You can be with us or you can be out. And so 13,000 people, it's a fairly small exclave of just a few tens of thousands, 13,000 people have decided to just leave and go to Armenia. This is actually, and by the way, on the surface level, this is messed up. This is not what you want in any part of the world. This is not a success for the international community. But as far as Azerbaijan is concerned, it's like, if that's the only way, if this means that the people who remain are finally happy to let us take control of it, then sure, so be it. Because this is a territory that, by the way, that has been controlling itself for so long. It is on the list of countries with limited recognition. So this is the list worldwide. China is one of them, which is kind of funny. But there's like 5 tiers of limited recognition. One is that at least one UN member does not recognize you. So, for example, Pakistan doesn't recognize Armenia. They're on the list of, they're not always considered a country. But in reality, everyone says Armenia's a country. Everyone says China or Cyprus are countries. People are a bit iffier about Israel and North Korea, but I think we'd all agree that they're very much all countries. Then there's the next level of Palestine, and we'll skip over that one real quick to say, then you've got the level below that of countries that aren't all the way countries, because a lot of them don't recognize it, so the Cook Islands or Kosovo. Then the level below that is states that are not parties within the UN, so these are they're recognized by a few UN member states, but nowhere near a majority, and so really aren't that country, like Northern Cyprus, Abkhazia, and the western part of Morocco that has a whole thing, and even Google Maps is like, we're not getting involved, we're calling it Western Sahara, despite there being no Western Sahara on the planet, just being like, it's a place that exists. So that is the next level down, and then the level down below that is where Artosk is. This is the part of the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. It has a cool looking flag, you gotta admit, right? It's got a cool little digital thing going on, and this is the Oblast, which isn't recognized by any UN member state, which is fascinating to be able to say, by the way. Even Armenia does not recognize it as a state. They would like to see their people correctly recognized inside of Azerbaijan, and they would also, they very much would dispute when that happens, but they are not recognized by any country on the planet, but they have been governing themselves for just a little bit of time. They have 120,000 people. They have their whole own system going on. Look, they have a president and everything. Is it a country? They have all the basics of a country. They do indeed do their own stuff inside of another country, but this country is coming to an end, it briefly seems. It seems as though, despite what's going on, and despite that, because both Russia and Turkey are either away doing something else or don't care enough to get involved. Indeed, Turkey seems to be on Azerbaijan's side. Because of all of that, it seems as though the solution is going to actually be it seems as though there is going to be a huge disarmed and a disbandment of the local forces, which is likely going to leave this being a part of Azerbaijan. It could be, that it becomes fully, just independent, just with better links to Azerbaijan, but it's much more likely that instead of allowing there to be a weird country inside of your borders, which has plagued the region forever, which has plagued, honestly, if you look at the entire part of the world, like, the USSR and Stalin's meddling is, like, something you can see to this day, that is something that they are likely not going to accept, and so Azerbaijan is going to go for it. And honestly, although this is, again, I want to always be clear, this is bad. You do not want people to feel like they are being ethnically cleansed from their lands. There's a interesting story of a woman who's like, actually, this is the second time I've become a refugee. It's really, really bad. People should not be forced to flee their home, and this is a sign of a bad conflict that's happening. 40,000 refugees being created, a third of the population. That tracks, right? The fact that so many people have to leave their home, the fact that there are hundreds of dead soldiers, there are people who have been starving and missing medication. This is their car got hit by a mortar fire. That's not ideal. It's a Mercedes. That's probably a nice car. That was expensive property damage, I think. But this all happening is a bad thing, but it is also like almost once it has happened, it at least stops happening. Is that the silver lining for this cloud, I think you can say. It does have to be said that it really comes down to, again, to look at this map. Azerbaijan looks at this and says this is unacceptable. Armenia says, come on, why can't you have it? And then the end result seems to be lots and lots and lots of conflict. Also, by the way, it should be noted that although this seems unreasonable to many people on the outside, in the first war they had all the way back in 1992, this Azerbaijan village was destroyed entirely. This was the solution to the, you might think, like, what's going on here? The answer is nothing's going on here. It is a fully destroyed village. It is a destroyed Azerbaijan village in the Kwazak district of Azerbaijan, but it's fully under control by Armenia now. It might be legally a part of Azerbaijan, and if we click on, Google Maps as Armenia, it'll be like, yeah, they don't control this little area, that's Azerbaijan, but they control it by de facto. The same is true here. It's an abandoned village. The same is true here, a destroyed village. The two countries are trading territory, but instead of doing it by paper and, by laws, which is probably how you're meant to do these sorts of things and how every other place on the planet does it, they're doing it via wars and via ethnic cleansing, and that is just the way that it's done, I guess. Is it ideal? Definitely not in the slightest. Is there a better way to resolve this? That's where that's where I kind of look at this issue and say, yeah, well, the easiest way to resolve this would have been to have a deal on paper, and for the last 30 years they have been attempting to make one, but what is the solution to a group of people who ultimately want to be part of a country they are not attached to, besides either sending those people to that country, which is happening via extreme bad means right now, or by having a very messy set of borders, which is a powder keg for a future conflict in the first place anyway. And so that is where the current kind of situation is at. That is why things are messy. Azerbaijan and Armenia are kind of just sorting out a very long border dispute, but it is also making this long assumption that, like, just because you're attached to something, you get to own it. Like, wow, does Russia have a rightful claim to Crimea because, oh look, they've got a bridge there, whereas on the Crimean Peninsula they could dig a canal. Does that make it reasonable? Does Ukraine have a right to it just for the same reason? There are all sorts of messy things we get involved in when we say you need to have a direct connection to a country to have control over it, and it leads to all sorts of messes where ultimately the correct solution is let people decide where they want to be. But if letting people decide where they want to be, hypothetically, do I get to vote that I want to be a part of, Belgium? No person in London is ever going to say that. But what if Londoners all want to be part of Belgium now? Do we get to decide that we're doing that, given that then messes up anyone outside of London? There is when you look around the world, self-determination works in neat little individual units that are already well, self-sufficient, etc. But in a world of globalization where very few places are self-sufficient and everyone relies on areas around them, and indeed there is a very importantness of trade going on, then how do you deal with places like this? I don't know the answer. All I know is there's a town called Ganja here, so that's fun. That's a city even, and they've got a premium hotel, and if you want to visit Azerbaijan, it's probably a cheap time to do it. That is my takeaway from this video. I have heard Baku is, for what it's worth mentioning also, yeah, Azerbaijan is the richer of the two countries, been doing real well with that natural gas money, and yeah, Baku's meant to be very nice, and I bet you get a good deal this time of year. Is that an allowed takeaway from a geography video? But yeah, if you're curious looking at a map, this might be a thing of the past, or it might be a weird technical quirk. It certainly won't be, as it currently is, a country within a country that is recognized by no countries. And so yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little deep dive into that. Hope you found it interesting, and I'll let you know how my trip to Baku does. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video, because as always, second channel, don't care. I now know, by the way, actually, little update, if I do make my hypothetical world map of 2100, now I know I've got to change some things. It looks, yeah, was anyone predicting this a while ago? Because they should have been, but that's the way the world map tends to change, is things that don't seem obvious become very, very obvious all of a sudden. And so yeah, I'll let you know in the next video how I think the world map is going in 2100. Enough people left positive comments, so I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, thank you for watching, second channel, don't care, goodbye.